Football Manager's a frustrating game, but how do you make it not frustrating? You score more goals. This advice is brought to you for free by Zealand. That's me. You see, I was lucky enough to be in attendance at the Football Manager World Cup, and I noticed a trend the moment I got there. Basically, every single team I was watching was scoring an absolutely stupid number of goals from corners. And one of the people that was leading the charge was this man. That's Jack Peachman, worked the space. He was one of the two managers representing England, and while managing Sporting at this FM World Cup, he scored over 50 goals from corners. And he did it with one man, Sebastian Coates, who, granted, is very good in the air. But should he be basically the leading goal scorer over that time period? Probably not. But with these masterful set-piece tactics we're going to talk about in this video, probably yes. See, that's because these set-piece tactics, they look good. Kind of like my background. Have you noticed? I actually leveled things up. This used to just be a wall that looked like a wall. But thanks to the wonderful sponsor of this video, Displates, it now looks like a cool wall. And you too can have a cool wall. Very easily, I might add. Because these awesome, high-quality metallic posters are super easy to install. I'm gonna show you, because I think it's time that old Pulisic goes back up. We're gonna take down our friend the cat here. There were no edits in that. It's that easy to swap these bad boys out. You probably should have figured out it was easy because I can do it. And whether you want Pulisic, a cat, they've got everything. There's over 200 officially licensed brands on display. They're durable, safe for your walls, and there's no tools needed even for the initial setup. And you can support this channel by going to the link in the description and grabbing one of these displates at a huge discount. But right now is their biggest sale of the year. The Black Friday sale is up to 44% off with code Zealand, and they're even discounting the super slick Textra finished ones for the very first time. Consider it a thank you for teaching you this awesome set piece tactic. Hey. No, but really, huge shout out to them for helping me figure out the background. They've been incredibly helpful. But back to this marvelous hunk of man, Sebastian Coates, and what exactly it's going to take to turn him into your top goal scorer. And I'm talking about besides using the in-game editor. That would work too. You see, my journey to this forbidden knowledge was not as linear as it may seem after that Football Manager World Cup, for I resisted the pull of investigating what exactly this set-piece tactic was. I knew it was insane. I'd watched it with my own eyes, but I'd forgotten one very important fact. I'm lazy. And so I went back into my own Football Manager rabbit hole, and I never figured out exactly what they were doing. I sat there, just gaming away, rotting away in hoodies and sweatpants, playing Football Manager all day. But then I got dragged into something, the network game. And in the network game, I was matched up against Dr. Benji, Lelujo, and Work the Space in a battle of wits. And I knew it was gonna be tough because Work the Space had spent months training for the World Cup, but I gave it a good go. Here was the final league standing. That's a pretty good first season with Chelsea, but I realized on the final stream of the network game that I was missing something I'd known existed all along. Sir Alex Ferguson once said you learn more from defeats than victories, and once again it was Lelujo to teach me this annoying lesson. Oh, let's go!
His noise gate cut out. I'm so excited there. Goodness me.
Oh, come on. It was a close match, back and forth, nearly dead even, with one crucial difference.
I'm learning American. 29 of the season for my boy, Gabriel.
He scored on a corner, and I didn't. See, over the course of these streams on my Twitch channel against these guys, I'd realized that this was happening quite a lot. So after the match, I made an inquiry. Sometimes it's the hardest thing of all to ask your friend you're trying to beat at a game why they are beating you. Hey, where can I download your corner tactic, Jack? You see, Lelujo had downloaded Work the Spaces tactic before the start of the save. So those two massive goal tallies of 27 goals from corners for the two of them each, those came from this same corner tactic. And since you've indulged my tale of woe as how my stubborn butt was dragged into learning this forbidden knowledge, here it is. You start with a basic looking attacking scenario. For example, myself, as somebody that's played Football Manager a little bit, starts with something that looks like this. A near post corner with two attacking near post, one far post, a lurk far post, go forward, two outside the area. pretty standard good corner. And there are a couple of iterations of this. Obviously, this is a tutorial. I'm going to explain to you exactly how all of this stuff works. But we start with an attack near post on the top. Then we're going to put an attack on the far post right here. And then a lurk on the far post. Then you go down to box threats and you have your number one box threat, mark the goalkeeper. Then in creators, you want your top creator to be near side on the box, your second best creator to be center, and your third best creator to come short. The other two players you're just gonna leave on stay back. Not even stay back if needed, just stay back. This will keep you from conceding basically any goals on the counter at all. Make sure the type of corner is an in-swinger and that it is aimed at the near post. Now, why does this work? Well, the idea is quite simple. It draws everybody away from your best aerial threat and isolates them in a one-on-one battle. The majority of your players are going towards the far post, and you're also occupying the goalkeeper with a mark keeper player. This, combined with a couple of players around the edge of the box, is going to spread out the defense and distract them, keeping the cluster of players away from the near post. How many times do you take a corner on Football Manager and see just a pile of players glob up around the near post? But in this corner tactic, you're able to get your best aerial player alone. Granted, it's against the best aerial defender, typically on the other teams, depends on what type of defense they're running, but you're always going to get that isolation. It exploits the fact that in Football Manager, if you're not able to create a crowd around a player, you can't specifically double team one player. In the new set piece defense system, you can player mark, but who those players are marking is predetermined by the game itself. And then there's 5 different zones, but they're all, of course, equidistant apart. Now, if you are up against this sort of corner, you do want to zonally mark the near post and also have somebody actually at the near post, everything to try and shut down the easy route to goal. But I can attest, as somebody that had to compete against this tactic repeatedly, it is virtually impossible to consistently stop. And obviously, the AI is not going to have nearly as much up its sleeve to stop this tactic as another player would. So now to the variations. There's one that I would recommend as an obvious second routine. You can just duplicate your current routine and then have it happen less often, or maybe on average, just so you have some other look to throw at a defense. This is typically more effective if you're going up against a team that's playing in zone marking, and let's say the front of their zone is proving much more tricky than the back of their zone. You'd never know for sure unless you literally just inverted this. Have your best aerial attacker go far post, and then have the other two players go near post. You'll also need to change a few other things, like making sure that you have somebody lurking on the area on the far side so they can pick up the balls knocked out. And the most important thing of all, you want to make sure you actually aim the corner to the far post. That is a very easy thing to forget because it's not down here in these little boxes, it's up here in this little box, but it's kind of important. If you ever want to modify your routine frequency, by the way, you can just hit it on that drop down and then you'll have all sorts of different combinations. But the near post one is the best. The far post one will create a similar look for you, but it's farther away from the taker, thus harder to execute. But let's go back to routine number 1, because there is another option which requires a lot more strategy, ball knowledge, and scouting. You take the third person and have them attack the near post. Then you take the first person, have them attack the far post, and the second person and have them lurk at the far post. I'll give you 5 seconds to try and figure out exactly what this would be able to accomplish. Let's say the other team has an incredibly good aerial defender that is smothering your best aerial player, but your third best aerial player is definitely better than theirs. That's where this would work, because these two players are your biggest aerial threats, recognized by the game. And as such, they will draw the two best defenders from the other team to try to shut them down in most AI marking schemes. This means the target will now be your third best aerial threat against their third best aerial defender. So either you have 3 very good aerial threats, so it makes a lot of sense to go with option number 3 because yours is a lot better better than theirs, or the other team has one or two very good aerial defenders that you can now get out of the way and give yourself an actual chance. This of course works with you putting the second player in there if you're just afraid of one big 16, 17, 18 jumping reach guy on the other team, but the next one's 12 or 13 and you'll dominate that. That's just what that would look like, by the way. The last modification you would be looking for is the sort of change you can make late in a game to put more pressure on the goal. You take your two recovery defenders and you create a new box threat that is also going to be attacking the opposite post of your pressure. This is going to draw even more defensive attention and hopefully open up your main target even more. You take the other recovery defender and you have them lurk outside the area as well to create a complete shell around the box. Now, if you're playing the ball to the near post, it's basically never going to get bounced out to the edge of the area far side. But what that option does provide is an open person to pass to if the ball does bounce out to the near or central sides. Or parts. That means you would want to have it ahead of the person that's coming short, because the person that's coming short is really just a decoy. They're never going to get involved in the ball. You're never going to play it to them. They're just drawing a defender away from the people that are actually trying to do stuff. The grown-ups over in the box. So this is your late game tactic, with whichever one of these three attacking players on the opposite post of the other two that you think gives you the best chance to score. Now this is where the description comes in handy. See, not only is the link to Displates down there, so you can get all these awesome posters up on your wall, the link to this set piece tactic is also down there. And if you want to see it work live, I just made all of these adjustments to my actual stream save on Twitch, where I'm managing in Brazil with the worst team in the Sao Paulo State League. Zao Bernardo, baby, we're on the rise. Already signed Alexander Pato and David Luiz, so it's going well. We'll be letting this tactic rip with David Luiz heading the ball into the back of the net in no time. And since I mentioned the FM World Cup, here's the tactic of the dude that won. It's a pretty freaking amazing tactic. I learned a lot from just making that video, so you'll learn a lot from watching it. I mean, like, logic checks out at least. We'll go do that or download do something. You got options.